Hello.
Hi,
Oh my gosh, good to see you.
to see you too. Thank you so much for having me. Also, can I
Yeah.
just quickly clarify? I know my top says my name, but it's actually just a challenger's top. It's not
Oh
me
my
just having a top with my name on it.
God.
They, if you have you seen challenges?
No, I've been wanting to for so long. I know.
Fair, but they do the tennis competition in New Rochelle, which is why it
Oh,
says Rochelle.
I
Not
love
just me being like a massive narcissist.
it. Yeah. That's great though. You should wear a shirt with your name on it anyway.
No, absolutely not.
Thank you so much for joining me. Rochelle Dowden-Lord, I'm thrilled by your novel Lush. The desire, the debauchery, the inspiring potential to change after hitting rock bottom.
Mm.
Yes. We'll get into why your debut novel Lush is amazing and more in the next 5 segments. We'll chat about what we can learn from your novel and how you've built a creative practice. Plus, we'll play a story game with a sentence submitted by a reader of the Books and Banter newsletter. And finally, you'll tell us the 3 books you'd save in a fire, and I can't wait to brighten our minds together today. How about you?
Amazing. No, I'm really looking forward to it. Thank you again for having me on the podcast.
Hell yes. I have a little bio from your book. Rochelle Dowden-Lord is a writer from South London, and Lush is her debut novel.
Yeah, short and sweet.
I love it. It's very stylish. So, my first question is, how's the weather in London today?
It's fine. Yeah, it's pretty. I mean, it's been raining on and off, but in between the rain, it's like extremely bright and nice. And I quite like when it's a bit rainy because I like to leave my bedroom window open. But if it's too sunny, like even if it happens once every 45 minutes, if some big wasp or something flies in, it ruins my life until I can get the wasp to leave. But when it's raining, there's no like chance of that. So I
Mm.
feel like I'm in the olden days, just like watching the rain through my window, if that makes sense.
Let's go to our first segment. The first segment is called Novel of the Moment. Lush is the novel of the moment. In this segment, we'll
Woo.
get deeper into your novel Lush and why I think it's so fresh and timely. Can you tell us the premise of your novel Lush?
So there are 4 main characters: Avery, Cosmo, Sunny, and Maylees, and they're all invited to drink one of the oldest bottles of wine in the world by this kind of almost mysterious figure called the Master. He is a master sommelier. He does have an actual name that you find out later in the book, but because he's such a mysterious figure to them, throughout the book they just call him the Master, and him and his husband invite them round, and they're quite a ragtag group of people. Like they're all experts in wine in one way or another. So Avery's a sommelier, Cosmo's a master sommelier like the Master, Maylee's is a food and wine writer, she's French, and Sunny owns a wine brand, so he probably knows the least, but they're all still experts in their field regardless of what you think of the product. So yeah, so they go to France for a few days, and it's just what happens when a group of strangers are thrown together in a beautiful place with a lot of basically unlimited alcohol, really. So yeah.
It really does have a great setup of what happens if a group of people are put into a French vineyard and they all are coming with their own baggage. It's almost like putting them in a pressure cooker and
Mm.
seeing what happens to them. I thought it was so good. I loved how well you described how competitive it is for people to become sommeliers. I thought it was really exciting. When Avery and Cosmo blind taste a wine, they need to know the tasting notes, but also the terroir, the region, and I think the date of when it was made. Yeah, what kind of research did you have to do for your sommelier characters?
Yeah, I it's funny because I think it's just like the truth of time, like the further away you are from it, the less it feels important. So I actually did a lot of research, but I forget that I did it because the bulk was just
Mhm.
imagination and writing. But there were maybe a few months of like intense research. So I looked up sommeliers and the history of that field, and watched a lot of documentaries. I watched a documentary called which was just like a pandemic watch when I'm like, yeah, Amazon Prime, sure, I want to watch these Soms train for their master Som exam.
Yeah.
And it was just like really interesting seeing how like it was very highbrow and lowbrow. So they need to know all these things, all these details. They need to be able to, you know, point to a map and tell you the wine that's produced there. But at the same time, they are, while they're training, getting slowly more and more drunk, which ended up they had arguments, and they have this spit bucket that you're supposed to like sip and spit into, but it's like a communal bucket. There's something like really like horrible and human and animalistic about it. So I quite liked
Yeah.
the difference between those two things. Like you see, if
Mhm.
you hear like master sommelier, you're like, oh, that's a really like highbrow, cool, specialized job, which it is, but it's also you're in the service industry, you know,
Yeah.
around tables full of people with more money than you. So I kind of like that dichotomy. And yeah, I read a lot of books as well. For a few wines that I describe in detail that are real wines, I would like read up on them, read about sommeliers who that was their favorite wine. I read all the tasting notes and then put it away. So it was almost like a closed book test. So it wasn't just me
Wow.
doing like a thesaurus thing about this wine. And even if I forgot something, I was fine with like substituting it for something else because that's kind of what it is anyway. Like wine tasting, it's all like poetry and knowledge and also like waffle.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was exciting to hear, let's say, more factual stuff or academic stuff. It scratched that curiosity for knowledge itch, but it was really well balanced with the poetry and the character experience. It sounds so hard to become a sommelier. It's perfect for a story.
And the fact that I said in the book about, again, I'm not going to remember the number off by heart, but I say it's 300 master sommeliers in the world. And it's still pretty similar to that. And there are
Wow.
like 6 black master sommeliers and no black women. That could have changed
Yeah.
by now. It's quite well known amongst the like black female sommeliers that there aren't any masters. Again,
Mm.
now it's been like
I
4 years
know.
since I've written this, so now there very well could be, but there'd only be 1 or 2 max.
Yeah, that seemed like a really important part of the story too, because you have this main character, Avery, who is a young Black woman trying to come into this world that has always excluded her. She also does influencing, so then that other people are judging her. But she's trying to find her way to get through the door, which I think is really a really cool way to show her story.
Mm.
Yeah. Yeah, how did you conceive of Avery's character?
Avery and Cosmo were the first characters I thought about as a black woman. It was just easy to imagine a black woman. And then when I decided it was going to be about wine, just the facts of the job kind of led to her narrative. So because there were so few black women and because I wanted to write about a black woman, it just made sense that she was kind of struggling to fit in into an industry that was just not welcoming to her, and an
Mhm.
industry that was more welcoming to her because, you know, she's young and attractive and has this like niche of, I think at the start I do a couple like Cosmo's her age mate essentially and knows her from like Instagram and her pictures where she's like hashtag women in wine, like buy this drink. And then you have that tension from Maylee's, and she kind of gets it from all angles. Like I didn't want it to be like the good people and the bad people. I
Mhm.
think everyone's a little bit good, everyone's a little bit bad. Sunny's probably her
Mhm.
only release with that because he doesn't have care.
Oh my gosh. I love hearing how you sort of made Avery this center point for us to focus on and then have these other dynamic relationships that she's experiencing and they're all a little bit different. It brought such a nice relief
Mm.
through all of the things that Avery is struggling with. In Lush, you explore the state of drunkenness and its effect on intimate relationships. There's a quote that I thought was really poignant, and it is on page 186. Everybody flip to 186. I probably should have asked you to read this, but here we go.
Oh no, I hate reading from the book.
Okay, good. Yeah, this is for the listeners at home. So, page 186, this quote is: He sits and ponders, as he does often, whether if he hadn't drunk the last thing he drank, if things would have gone differently, if he would have felt differently. He feels well, which means he's drunk or almost drunk. He feels well, which means he's aware of doing the wrong thing, but can do nothing to stop it.
I like that bit. I feel like this is the point of publication, but there are some like lines and characters and moments and scenes that I like really believe in, and that's one of them, I think.
Oh, that's amazing to hear. I think I could feel it. There's a few moments like that too, where you cut through with these gems of truth, or you like just cut straight to the heart of something, to what your story is about. And that was one of the things that I felt like your story is about, which is when you're aware of doing the wrong thing, but you can't do anything to stop it. Because for this character, Cosmo, he's been drinking all day for many days in a row. And so this is him beginning to reflect on that. I would love to hear you talk more about this undercurrent of your story about, I guess, alcohol, drinking, and
Yeah.
what did you say?
I said alcoholism.
Yeah, this undercurrent about alcoholism, like
Yeah.
clearly the story is about it, and I thought you did it in such a beautiful way.
Thank you. I
Mhm.
think when I first started writing, it was way less about that.
Mm.
Um, yeah, it was just way less about that. It was 100% about sommeliers, and obviously there would have to be an aspect of that because all the books I've read, I've probably read like maybe a dozen or something. A lot of them non-fiction, and even a lot of the writers are like, yes, we're functioning alcoholics. Like you have to be. You're drinking 4 bottles of wine a day. Like you have to be. That's not a normal thing to do. Um, but I think as I like, the more I wrote, the more that I realized myself that I drank too much, and I was like, oh no. But I didn't want to do a U-turn, or like I didn't want to go left and make it a preachy book, because it's not that at all. And I think it's
Mm.
almost like a love story towards wine, is how I described
Yeah.
it to my friends. I was like, imagine you're in a bad relationship. It wasn't always bad. It might have been the love of your life. And it was never always bad, but you can see the ending coming up. That's kind of what it felt like. So it's a love story, as well as I want it to almost be more of a love story about wine than
Mhm.
you should be doing this. So my dedication is to those who want and want and want, with varying degrees of success.
Oh, that's perfect.
And at the end of my acknowledgements, after I do the whole waffle about, everyone who'd seen the book before publication, not waffle though, they're important. I said, I said, thank you for wine, for letting me feel as good as I wanted during the times it counted, and to sobriety for letting me be as good as I am and let me live to tell my tales, which is so like dramatic now. At the time, it felt very poignant, but it's still true. I'm not the type of person who I'm like, everyone should stop drinking, you know. I still wanted it to be romantic and kind of glorify drinking, because it can be, it's almost as another character. I was going to say seventh, but I can't remember how many characters there are. Character in the novel where wine has so many faces. It can be one glass to, you're meeting someone you haven't seen in a while, you need one glass just for a little bit of courage, or it can be celebratory, or it can be because of a bad situation, for console someone. Like it's got so many faces, and you can drink and not even feel it the next day, or you can drink and you can lose a whole day. Like it's so
Yeah.
multifaceted, and that's kind of what I wanted to write about. But yeah, I thought Cosmo is an important character because I want it to be like, if you're going to drink every day of your life, like there's going to be some times where you end up like Cosmo, and life's not that good, and you kind
Yes.
of like make a decision. You have to reflect on that.
There was another great quote of exactly what we were talking about. Some dramatic things are happening, and they're all drinking. On page 140, drinking for fun is its own escapade, as there's revelry in between the sips, laughter and conversation and such. But this drinking is for bravery, and because of the fickleness of alcohol, the narcissism of the liquid that cloaks itself in altruism, they miss bravery by about half a mile and land squarely in the lap of drunkenness.
It's also a good one, I think.
And
That's a good one.
poetry snaps.
Yeah.
Poetry snaps.
The pen was working that day.
Yes. It was working for all 320 pages. To wrap that up, I'll say I completely agree that this is also a love letter to wine, just as much as it is a consideration on alcoholism. I love that you show all the faces, so then that way a reader can consider for themselves which face they maybe they're wearing.
Yeah, definitely.
Okay, so let's go to our next segment, which is Charmed by Craft. In this segment, we get crunchy about the mechanics, narrative storytelling in your novel, Lush. gosh, Rochelle, I just think you're brilliant in the way you wrote this.
Oh, thank you.
I want to talk to you about the craft of your story. You wrote this with such flair. You also write beautiful sentences that cut straight to the heart of things. I would love to hear more about what it's like for you when you're writing your sentences. So how do you go from a sentence you draft to this beautiful poetic sentence that you see in your novel?
I don't know. When I became a reader, which I would say about 16, and before that, obviously, I read a lot, as many people who end up reading and writing in their adulthood do. But I remember when I was 16, it became like something serious instead of just like a pastime. And I read Cormac McCarthy's All the Pretty Horses. And
Mm.
there's have you read that?
No, I haven't read any Cormac McCarthy.
Oh,
What was this one called?
it's called All the Pretty Horses.
Oh, okay, got it.
And there's a scene in that which says something like she came to his bedroom and she came for 16 nights running or something. It's obviously supposed to be like quite like seductive and like cheeky, whatever. But it's a whole paragraph. And if you know about Cormac McCarthy, he's quite spare in his punctuation. And I remember reading that out loud at 16 in my childhood bedroom and being like out of breath at the end of it because of his use of punctuation and also just because of his choices and being like, oh, there's writing and then there's like writing. Like some people are using, a blue pen in a 6-pack of biros, $1.99, and some people have the feather tip right, in the ink. It's a quill and the end of it's like on fire. Like there's a gif of like a pen on fire. That's what it felt like. What I remember is never the plot. It's never the plot, more the characters, never the endings. I hate almost every ending of every book, or I just don't remember it at all. But what I remember is like a sentence where I'm like, these are just, and they're always sentences where there's not like a big word in it, but it's just the way they're put together just means something more to me. I don't know. This sounds so like dark academia of me, but I don't know how to explain it. It's always been on my mind. I think that I find that the easiest. Like I can write a really good sentence in a shit chapter. It feels like panning for gold, and the little nugget of gold is one sentence, and I'm like, that's worth sitting by the river.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I know where I'm good, and listen, I can write a fucking sentence.
Yes.
The rest of it is like very a beautiful mind. Like I'll have like stuff stuck on. I'll be writing for 2 weeks and I'll forget a main character. I'll be like, oh my gosh, I forgot who's even in this book. I'll do a little tone shift. I'm like, am I writing a thriller? What's going on here?
I love that. And so let's go to our next segment. This segment is called Food for Thought. In this segment, we try your favorite fuel for writing and discuss how you've built your unique creative practice. So, Rochelle, what are we drinking today?
Yeah, it's just a iced oat milk coffee. It's either this or when I'm trying to be really like 70s, 80s, write it in a beautiful candlelit space, just like endless cups of tea.
Ooh, candle it with tea. That sounds nice. Yeah.
Imagine I just bought a bottle of wine and it was half empty.
Yeah, you're like...
So this is actually my cup. So yeah,
really good.
This at home. Here's one I made earlier. Unfortunately, I didn't have decaf, so I'm gonna do a lot of tidying tonight. Maybe do some writing,
So this is iced coffee. I haven't had iced coffee in maybe 10 years.
Also, this has a bit of sweetener, I have to be honest. Do you know what it is? I feel like when I stopped drinking, I became like a drinks aficionado. I'm like drinking cherry Pepsi Max on a daily basis. You just want to like
alternate drink
something. Yeah. So this has a tiny bit of caramel.
Oh, that's fun.
I'm trying to wean myself off of it because I need to wean myself off of sugar.
Oh yeah.
I need to be like one of those girlies who's just like broccoli, chicken breast. Maybe not, but just not endless sugar and cigarettes. Okay, maybe a little Otis Redding, but no more
sugar and cigarettes.
Yeah, I mean they go together so well. I'm 30 now. I have to think about
I know this. I'm 32, so I feel you. This last year,
think about these things, and it's weird because we're still so young. But when we were like 16, we could just be like out on the town, just like. This wasn't always my drink of choice. I would definitely do a red wine while writing. I would do a lot of red wine. Yeah. I would do a lot of red wine while writing.
That's why there's a little acknowledgement at the end of
Yeah,
your
yeah,
book.
yeah, yeah. I think part of the reason I wrote this as well was almost to like romanticize my spiral a little bit because it was during the
Mm.
pandemic. I'm not sure how it was with you guys, but we were like allowed out for like an hour a day. Yeah, so we'd go out and I'd do my big food shop and I'd carry like boxed wine on my
Mm.
shoulder all the way home, like I was bringing food back to my family, and it was just like the cheapest boxed wine. And I had like a quite a precarious home situation then, and I just
Mm.
drink so much. But because like writing was so kind of felt, I mean, they just go together, don't they? In a lot of situations, like writing and drinking.
Yeah.
Yeah. You feel like, who is it that said write drunk, edit sober? You feel like Hemingway.
Yeah, totally.
You do one sentence that's good, and you're like, that was worth 4 hours of drinking. It feels easier to like hyper focus. Focus also can get broken really quickly.
Yes.
Yeah, you kind of have to acclimatize to doing things a different way. And then when I, obviously, I'm not going to say like who, but when I stopped drinking, I made a big deal out of telling people immediately I'd stopped drinking. Like even people I'd met, just because it's a lot of like publishing types, a lot of writers. I was like, they're going to want to go to like a fourth location, and I can't be doing that.
Fourth location. Yeah.
Yeah. So they'd be like, oh, do you want another drink? I was like, I don't drink water. I'll have H2O,
Yeah.
just like Jesus before the miracle, you know? And then I found out like so many of them don't drink. We've all been lied to. We've all been lied to. I was like, I wish I knew you guys didn't drink.
Wow.
But the ones who do are the loudest voices, obviously, because they're the ones who are like,
Need company.
yeah. And then the people who've been like quietly sober for a couple of years, you don't even notice what people are drinking in a crowd.
Yeah, that's so
And you
true.
actually don't. I say all that to just because my beverage is my choice, and I don't want to be like, yeah, I've always, this is how I wrote Lush. Like, no.
Yeah. It's great to hear like your beverage slash author fuel journey because we are talking about creative practice and there is a connection between your rituals and like how you surround yourself, the environment you're creating for yourself and your writing. And you already kind of talked about what your writing practice or like your creative practice was like, obviously with writing Lush in the pandemic with the box of wine. But what does your typical writing day look like?
I don't think this is going to be helpful to anybody.
It
But
doesn't have to be helpful. Yeah.
okay. I feel like with Lush, I wrote in such a fever of like, you know, a lot of writers are like, yeah, I wrote a novel when I was a kid because they were kind of like swept away in just the idea of writing a novel. Like that would be what they wanted to do when they got home instead of like watch TV.
Mm.
That's what writing Lush felt like. It felt like feverish. Like that's what I wanted to be doing at all times.
Mm. Mhm.
Um, now it's like watching One Piece or something. Now it's watching a 12 episode anime that's called like I went to the shop and got knocked over by a trolley and now I'm in a new world and I'm a prince question mark, and just being like really invested in that for 20 episodes or 12 episodes. But once I finished Lush, I feel like I just did not have a routine. And I actually quit my previous 9 to 5 just before the book was published. Kind of just, well, one, I just wanted to have, this is such a big achievement. I've been wanting to write a book for my whole life. I have enough money to look for a job I think I'm probably better suited to. And I was like, I'm going to write every day. I'm going to read a book a day. I'm going to be in the park, walking around, you know, smelling the flowers, writing in my notebook. And then I opened the page and I was like, oh, I was like, Lush is finished. So what's next? Yeah, I found it really hard to get into that routine. I've tried, I can't do a library. It's just not chic enough for my needs. I know
Yeah.
that sounds so bad. Yeah, I'll go to the library for a reason. Like I'll go to do some documents, do some admin, but I can't write a novel in the library. It just doesn't feel like the most, unless it's like a private library or like the British Library.
Mm.
I'm surrounded by a bunch of 21-year-olds like doing meditation, and I'm like, I should write too, you know, like
Yes. Yes.
you know, in like an emergency, if everyone's running, if everyone just started running in one direction, you just run too. That's what being in the British Library feels like. I'm like, oh, shit, I need to
Better
get
get to work.
yeah, I'm gonna get left behind. So I'm trying to get into a new. I don't feel like my desk is. I don't know. I don't have one, but I need one. So if we can work it out right now, that'd be great.
Yeah. This is literally my favorite segment because it's all I swear it's all I talk to with my writing buddy slash writing group where we're like, how the hell do we do this? And it's always shifting, and I'm like, I can't write at my desk. I gotta go to the library. No, I gotta go to the cafe. No, I gotta go. I'm like trying to figure it out. It's just really hard and takes experimentation.
Yeah, I love when I read about people who are like, oh yeah, I work a full-time job. I have three kids. Like I write whenever I can. I write when I'm, waiting for the food to heat up. I'm writing when my kids having a nap. I'm like, I've had like 6 months. I've got like 10K words and I'm not even a big fan. I feel like if it was more romantic aesthetic, then I would write, you know?
Oh, I hear ya.
If I was on like a green sofa and there were candles everywhere. But instead, I'm in my house yet. Admittedly, it's a beautiful house, but I just can't. It's too familiar. It's
Yeah.
impossible. So yeah, I'm meeting up with a friend tomorrow who's also a writer. Her novel's coming out next year. I feel like I just need to see someone else doing work,
Mhm.
and
Mhm.
I'll feel left out. And then it's always the first. I'm being hyperbolic. There have been like stretches where it's been nice to write, and I
Mhm.
know what my next novel is going to be now, which was a big part of it. Because when I didn't know what it was, I was like, "This is ridiculous. This feels like
Mhm.
trying to conjure someone out of thin air."
Mhm.
It kind of is what writing is like.
Yeah, literally.
Now that I know, I feel like I'm starting to get into the groove. But I don't think it will ever feel as magical and you'll feel as swept away as your debut.
I feel like this is perfect timing because it sounds like I caught you right in the middle of discovering your creative practice in the sense of like a routine.
Mm.
Because obviously 2020 was such a unique, specific period of time. What I keep hearing from everybody during this podcast is like that there's never going to be a perfect time. It's always going to be messy. It's never going to be comfortable. I'm
Mm.
like, okay, I just have to accept that, I guess.
I want to be so comfortable.
I
Like,
know.
I was rewatching me mentioning another media, gonna ask you if you've seen it, Queen Charlotte.
Yes, that is one thing I have seen.
But I rewatched it because I was just like, it just gives what it needed to give. There's
I
a
love Queen
scene
Charlotte.
where there's like they're like outside. It's very nothing really happens, but there's like the big wall to their mansion, and then there's two little benches against the wall. And I was like, if I sat there, if I was in Bridgerton and I could just go to the gardens and sit on the wooden bench against the wall with 3 to 5 cigarettes
Yes.
and lemon and ginger tea, and
Mhm.
somehow my back didn't hurt because it'd be against a stone wall, then
Yeah. It's
the
a bit
novel would be finished.
roses everywhere.
Roses, lanterns,
Yeah, orchestra like far enough away where it's not distracting, but it just gives sets the mood.
playing beautiful string music, and I'm like, is that Cardi B? But it's far enough away that it doesn't. The thought comes and then it goes, and then I'm back in.
Yeah, that
God.
is so funny. Actually, Bridgerton does do the like orchestral covers. Is that Cardi B? I think it is.
Yeah,
I think you've touched on something really important, which is that we're always discovering our creative practice, and we have to be nice to ourselves about it. And hopefully, we will find our perfect spot to write.
definitely. I'll find it. I'll find it today and let you know.
Yeah, perfect. Okay, let's go to our next segment. This segment is called Build a Story with Rochelle Dowden-Lord. In this segment, we play a low stakes improvised story game with an opening sentence submitted by readers of the Books and Banter newsletter. We'll say a sentence back and forth to complete a quick, zany narrative. This sentence was submitted by Lindsay. Thank you, Lindsay. I'll say Lindsay's brilliant sentence, and then Rochelle and I will go back and forth. There are 183 shipwrecks along the coastline leading to Apollo Bay.
And without her quick thinking, she would have been 184.
1 year older than me, Emma said, while sitting in her rocking chair looking over the shipwrecks.
Anna looked at her. Surely you're not that old, she said, laughing.
You don't know how old I was if it hit you in the face.
They'd gotten back from their voyage an hour ago. It'd been a close call. Anna had gone straight to see Emma.
Emma looks at Anna and stops rocking in her chair and says, I almost thought you weren't gonna make it. I was watching all of these ships crashing onto my bank in Apollo Bay, but here you are now, coming to check on me, and I'm starting to regret it.
Anna also regretted it. Her feet were wet, her clothes were wet, and this old lady who she sometimes checked on was being more of a bitch than usual.
Anna, you're my daughter-in-law, and I watched you swim all the way from your sinking ship, crawl your way up my front lawn, and come sit next to me on my porch, and you didn't even say thank you.
Anna couldn't concentrate on the conversation because she needed to ask Emma what she'd come here to ask straight after the crash, which was, where is your son? And why was he there to help us?
Ever since you married my son, Benjamin, I've been missing my boy. Where is my son?
And I hope she would be the one to ask the questions. But now she realizes that if Emma doesn't know and she doesn't know, they have a huge problem. The ship's due to go back out in 2 days' time. Without their captain, their voyage was bound to fail, as it almost did today.
They both look out onto the water as the summer cicadas sing in the grass, wondering, where is Benjamin? The end.
The end. You know what? I feel like that's a woman's prize, at least longlisty. At least.
At least.
She made their names so similar for no reason. I was like, Emma, Anna, Emma. Like,
Yeah.
Basically the same name.
And I think they passed the Bechdel test too, which is great. So, women's prize, here we go. Let's go to our next segment, which is show us your books. You'll show us 3 books you'd save in a fire.
So this is Cormac McCarthy, All the Pretty Horses, the greatest American novel. I think it's of this in any time, it says, which is crazy to make a review that big.
Wow.
This is one of my favorite books. It's the first in a trilogy called the Border Trilogy, and it's about John Grady Cole. I haven't read it in a long time, so I'm going to read from the back, but I promise you I have read it. I don't think I've read it in 12 years, but John Grady Cole is the last bewildered survivor of long generations of Texas ranchers, finds himself cut off from the only life he's ever wanted, and he sets out for Mexico with his friend Lacey Rawlins, and then they get into all sorts of hijinks. There was a really horrible film made out of it with a really famous Matt. Who's the most famous Matt actor?
Is it Matthew McConaughey?
Oh, it's Matt
Damon.
Matt Damon. Yeah, Matt Damon was the main guy, and I feel like Penelope Cruz was like the hot girl he loves, but it's so bad. Yeah, that was the first book that I read where I was like, oh, people are writing. So when I saw that cover and it was like the greatest novel of this or any time, I was like, fair. So this is Elizabeth Smart by Grand Central Station. I sat down and wept.
Whoa.
This is I guess it's like an epic poem. It's quite short. I used to work at Fourth Estate, who published this in the UK. And for my leaving card, they made the cover, not this cover, there's another cover that they made the cover of my leaving card. And it's like my most prized possession. Don't know where it is though. So it's a true story. So Elizabeth Smart was in a London bookshop, met a man, the dream. Oh, she saw a volume of poetry by George Barker and fell in love with him because she read his book.
Whoa.
And then eventually, because of some unknowable ruse, they met and they began a love affair. I think she had like 4 of his kids. And yeah, she's obviously a little bit unhinged about him. Meet him, have 4 of his kids, but they never married. And I think he was married, maybe.
Oh, wow.
But it's just so beautiful. Yeah, it's just a really beautiful book. And I remember this, especially because I remember being like, I don't believe in astrology. And I remember reading this and being like, she has to be a Sagittarius. Just because she felt like the same brand of insane as me. And she was a Sagittarius, so maybe I'm an expert. My third pick is The English Patient. I've brought out the big guns.
Ooh, shining.
Yeah, it's gorgeous. It's like a gold foil. I have about 6 editions of this book. This is like my one favorite. Have you read The English Patient?
No, I haven't.
Have you seen the film?
I have a long time ago.
I think this is the only book that's won the Booker Prize and won the Oscar for Best Film.
Oh, wow.
Which I feel like everyone at least knows a bit about the film. The English Patient is a man who crashed in a plane at the end of the Second World War. And as everyone was kind of like retreating, trying to go back to their old lives at the end of the war, it is a kind of strange thing that's less considered, where everyone's just trying to go home. but all the infrastructure's like more weary, obviously, because there's been a war going on.
Yeah.
Stays behind to look after him because he's really badly burned. And it's just, he's a sentence writer.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, he's a sentence writer. And yeah, I'm not gonna say much more. I feel like people know the plot, but there's a lot of flashbacks, it's a lot of romance. It's just probably the most beautiful book I've ever read.
Wow, that sounds amazing. And I'm really excited to see the novels whose sentences inspired you, since your sentences are so lovely. I have one final question for you, which is how do you hope people will be transformed when they read your book, Lush?
I don't know, it feels like quite lofty to say that I hope people are transformed by it. I hope that people maybe read a passage or read a sentence and feel like, oh, thank God. I thought it was just like, you know, that feeling of like, you thought it was just you who felt that way, or felt like I'd done something interesting with my prose or really related to one of the characters. I feel like that's all I really want in a book. I mean, it's amazing when someone's like, oh, this is my favorite book, you know, like, I'm so glad you wrote it. I can't wait to see the film. Like, this is the book of the summer. I'm like, that's nice. But when someone's like, that one line you wrote, like, which you know, you read a line and then you can't read for a couple of seconds because even though
Mm.
it's so simple, it just occupies so much of your brain. And I feel like writing can do that. But it's a special sort of alchemy, you know. Some of the books that I feel like meant the most to me, I don't think are the best written, or they might just be non-fiction, or they might be about a specific topic or about a specific person who I admire. But the books I really love are ones that like, it feels a bit like magic on the page. Maybe not every page, but you know, a few.
Ah, that is beautiful. I love that idea. I think all readers would relate that sometimes there's just a single sentence that strikes your heart, your soul, and it sticks with you for the rest of your life. And that's the best thing you can ever expect from a book.
Yeah.
And you have so many sentences that did that to me. So that is such a lovely sentiment. Yeah, I can't wait for people to read it more.
And I'm writing book too, so
Woo!
once we find the right chair, we're gonna get there.
Oh, that's so exciting. Thanks so much for sharing about you and your book. It's so awesome to talk to you.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for having me. It's been great.